I have actually clicked record, but I don't know if
I can see.
Normally it sends up a message though, doesn't it, to ask permission?
Yes, I've got it. This meeting is being recorded. Okay, so it is being recorded.
So we'll record it so that any of your colleagues on your course that want to watch this back, they can. They won't have the advantage of the chat at the end for answering questions, but it may well help. So we'll do that. As always, if you prefer not to be seen on camera, it'll only be shared within internal groups, so it won't be shared internally. Okay. So just to make a couple of introductions. So I'm not sure whether we'll have met quite a lot of you before, but we are part of the careers team. And as our title suggests, we are involved in employer engagement. We work across the whole university, so we don't just look after SATUM or SWE or one particular theme or school. And we are there in the background, engaging with employers to do our best to bring as many suitable employers to you for opportunities for your recruitment plans over the academic year. If you do have a smartphone handy and you want to hover over the QR code, you can connect with us on LinkedIn. We've both got fairly unusual names, so if you want to just note our name and then connect with us afterwards, you're most welcome. We do share quite a lot of info on our social feeds. So that's us. And the idea of today's session is to, I'll get you to click, Ursula, the next slide.
Next slide.
The point of today's session is to help you prepare for virtual careers fairs in general. But as hopefully you're aware, is we do have an event this coming Thursday, which should be in your timetable between 12 and 5, which is logistics, supply chain and transport event. And obviously that encompasses air transport, airport planning management. We're going to give you some hints and tips. I mean, we obviously know the difficulties facing the industry at the moment, although we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel now. And trust me, I'll be one of the first people to get back on a plane and go on holiday as soon as we're able. So although the industry has obviously suffered in the last 12 months, it will recover so quickly, probably beyond demand can keep up, I would imagine. So, you know, if you're feeling a bit disheartened by that, don't worry. We're going to give you some hints and tips about how to get out the best of it and share with you who's going to be there. So we're going to cover some tips on what to do before the fair, during the fair and after the fair. Share with you questions that you really shouldn't ask and some really good ones that you should. Some additional resources I've actually already put in the chat. Please don't open it now because it will distract you, but I've put in the chat a link to our learning pack, which is virtual careers fair preparation, virtual recruitment events. Plenty of time to answer questions, hopefully, and give you a very brief demo of the platform. So that's the plan for today. So what is a virtual careers fair? Well, it's very much a replication as best we can of an on-campus careers fair, where we connect you with employers in a live environment for you to be able to look at resources, learn more about them as an organisation and what opportunities they might have, and then engage in live chat, mainly in a text version with employers. And what you can expect is a smaller sector-specific event. It is shared with logistics and supply chain, but what you guys do on your course and what you may have already had experience of in work is an overlap between what some of the logistics guys do and what you do within your course. There's lots of modules that can be quite similar. So you can expect a mixture of employers. And we have 13 employers, which we'll share with you, and 3 of them are airlines.
Can I just quickly add to that what to expect? It is very important for you to realize and to know that before you take part in the virtual careers fair, that it is very rare that employer will offer you a job on the spot. Okay, so it's really to manage your expectations. Your main aim should be building connections with employers. So that's what you should expect. You know, we did have cases of students talking to employers and they have been encouraged to apply and then went on to secure a job. But as a rule, do not build your expectations that you will have a chat, you'll tell employer or a recruiter about yourself, and you will be offered a job on the spot. So just remember, it is all about connecting. It is all about getting to know recruiters. It is all about building your network rather than just getting a job on the spot.
Okay, so which employers participate in virtual fairs? Well, any employer. It might be an employer that, of course, has got opportunities and wants to recruit Cranfield talent. In the case of this event on Thursday, they are coming to Cranfield to meet you. This is a Cranfield exclusive event, and we do share other events that are open to other schools and other universities on our platform. But this event has been created by us to allow employers to come and recruit you exclusively. And as Ursula's already touched on, the types of job that are available, it depends on the employer. So on their booth, they will share information, links out to their website. It's not a jobs fair. You won't go to their booth and just see a whole big list of jobs that you apply for. There will be links to them. And some of them will be sharing PDFs and documents on their stand that you can download into your virtual event bag, which will explain a little bit more. But yeah, a wide variety. It could be direct hires, and it could be graduate type opportunities for those of you without much experience.
And one thing to remember, there's a whole lot of hidden jobs that are perhaps not advertised directly by recruiters, jobs that you might be recommended for in the future. So things that perhaps are not active right now, but they are there. And by networking, by learning more who to contact or when to approach a company, will also give you an understanding of what other jobs are out there that might be relevant to you.
So before the virtual fair, we encourage you to register and create your profile. Now, for those of you that attended the big multi-sector careers fair, the virtual one on the 5th of November last year, you will already have a profile registered, hopefully. So for those of you that have, you can revisit that, and where you find the link is to go into Simplicity, click on events, careers fair, and this particular fair, and you will see in there a link to register for those of you are new. Otherwise, you log in. I will share the web address, but you will get a reminder email as well telling you where to click on the day. So visit Simplicity to that particular event. If there's any queries on that, obviously just give us a shout, but that's where you register. So it's important to register and create your profile or update it if you've already got one before the day. Add a photograph, add a little bit of information about you, but you won't be able to get into the event to see the employers until 12 o'clock on Thursday, and it's between 12 and 5. And I'll let
I can cover this. While registering on the portal, creating your profiles and familiarizing yourself generally with portal won't take you too much time. The main part really of your preparation is to research, doing some research about attending companies. So when you actually talk to recruiters, you know what you talk about, you know what you're talking about. They get the right impression. You can actually demonstrate the interest in this particular organization or a job. So first of all, and that's quite obvious, but I will say it anyway, is have a look at websites. Have a look at the website pages. Have a look at the overview of the company. What jobs they have, of course, look at the careers pages, see what's current, because that will make you think of perhaps there isn't any jobs that are relevant to you right now, but that can help you to list some questions you might ask about future recruitment, about future jobs, etc. And also it's really good, and I definitely recommend, if you are interested in particular companies, you don't have to do it obviously for all participants, but if there is any organization that you really would like to connect with and explore career opportunities with, do some research, general research on internet about any articles, any recent news about the company, have a look at the social media, and try to build a picture what the company is like, because then again, it will help you to create the right questions. You might get an understanding perhaps what the culture is like, what their priorities are like, etc. Yeah, so spending some time before the session and learning about the company is very important. It will show the employer that you are interested, you're really interested in the organization, and you are really interested in getting a job with them. And also, one thing is that it can prevent you from asking a question that's so obvious. So if you ask some obvious question, there is something big going in the news right now about a particular employer, and you ask them obvious questions, that's not creating a right impression, shows that you are unprepared, and really, are you really interested in that employer? So going that extra mile, showing recruiter you are informed, can pay off in the long term.
So do you want me to cover this? So the CV, I would imagine you were already in contact with our colleagues, career development managers, Katrina and Diane, who have probably been chasing you for your CV for your ATM yearbook, which is in preparation for your group projects. They will have been working with you, or at least chasing you for your CV to add to that yearbook. And that's the purpose of that, is obviously to share with employers when you do your group presentations. But you can use that CV, or in fact your own CV, as long as it is well proofread. You might have some tailored copies. There might be different areas of the industry that you're interested in. And in your case, with most of you, I'd imagine, are looking obviously to go into air transport, but it might be, if there are limited opportunities, for you to consider other areas where you can use your skill set temporarily whilst you're searching for that right role within the airline industry. It could be that you've got a few tailored copies where you might want to say in your profile that you're looking for something else. For example, if you're not finding the right opportunities within airlines for the next year or so, you might want your tailored profile to say something like, you're looking for a role within planning or strategy or within logistics or whatever that might be. You wouldn't want to give a CV to an employer saying, I want to start my career in the airline industry, and then give that to a logistics company, because that's going to put them off. So make sure you've got your CV ready. Although at the fair itself, you're not going to be expected to go to virtual booths and pass on your CV relentlessly to the employers. That's not what they'll be looking for. But if they did happen to get in conversation with you and they said, oh, can you send us a CV? It's important that you've got it ready to share.
Thank you, Helen. And the next part of your preparation before the fair is to really practice your networking skills. And I know some people absolutely dread it. We are all different. Networking comes naturally to some of us, and to some of us, this is something we need to work on, practice, and get familiar with, so we are comfortable when we actually speak to recruiters and network in environment like this. So really what you need to do is just think of what you would like to highlight about yourself to potential recruiter. Prepare a few talking points to just quickly introduce yourself and to say why you might be a great candidate, especially if you're talking about particular job opportunities. This is such quick introduction is sometimes called elevator pitch. And I believe Careers, we have some material to help you with that. So do approach Careers, and I believe it's on Simplicity, isn't
yeah, and in the virtual learning pack that I've shared in the link, it touches on elevator pitch. Absolutely, just take a look at that afterwards.
Yes, so have a look. That might help you to prepare. But I just want to say that employers do want to learn more about you. It's not just standing there and looking at the adverts, it's actually engaging with them. So really talking about yourself is quite important. So think about a short overview of your background, of your studies, perhaps career goals. So you are prepared to answer any questions they might have, that as well. And what I would also recommend, because most of interaction during virtual event or virtual careers fair will be written. So you can actually prepare a few notes, so you're ready to copy and paste them, okay? So you don't have to spend time typing each introduction separately. So this is a little tip. Prepare your few talking points about yourself and just put them in the chat as copy and paste. And what else? Do you want to cover this, Helen?
Yeah, some of the basics here really, which I'm sure most of you might see this is fairly common sense, but it is important. You need a quiet space to attend a virtual event, just like you would is if you were perhaps attending an interview or something like that. So make sure your device is charged. You can attend the fair on a mobile device, although it's probably best if you have access to your laptop or a PC. Check your internet connections. Have a sensible background, blur your background, put a virtual background on, whatever works, if that's better, and dress to impress. And this is always a funny one, isn't it? Because nobody can see your bottom half when you're on these kind of calls and sessions, and you might well be in your pajama bottoms or your tracksuit or whatever, but make sure your top half is relatively smart. And just think about, if you get an opportunity to go on a video chat with an employer, which is a possibility on Thursday, then it's important that they can see your top half looking reasonably professional. Now, within reason, we're not expecting you to be sitting there in a suit, but just be aware that if that is a potential employer, how would you, if you can see yourself, would that seem to be fairly professional? In my case, I'm just sat in my house and I'd probably put a virtual background or blur the background. So what they're seeing is you, not what's going on in the background. So that's really all I've got to say on that.
Thank you, Helen. And at the fair, once you at the virtual fair, or in fact in any careers fair, this is the main thing. It's to promote yourself. That's why you are there. So being proactive, engaging in conversations is really the best way forward. Remember that once the employer engages you in a chat, so for example, you might have to wait until they finish talking to somebody else. But once they engage you in a chat, the ball is really in your hands. So you are kind of in charge, and it is your opportunity and your turn to introduce yourself, ask questions about organizations, ask open questions about open positions, etc. So you are kind of in charge. So you really need to feel confident about starting conversation and confident about yourself, which you prepared as your own introduction. And the feedback we had from employers so far from all our events is that they do want students to engage. They do want students to start conversation and show initiative. And the showing initiative is sometimes that what can get you noticed. So it's very important that you keep that in mind. And also it's worth keeping in mind that a virtual careers fair is really a little bit like a real life event. So if the event was on campus, you wouldn't just approach employers stand and just stand there and say nothing. And it's the same principle kind of applies to the virtual environment. So, taking initiative in a confident way and leading the conversation. Of course, you need to consider the fact that when employers talks, you need to listen, so you can take their points on board. So it's not just about you talking all the time, but for you to understand how you can manage that conversation. Anything to add, Helen, to that?
No, I think that's right. I think it's so important that you are proactive in that environment, because whilst an employer, when they're in the booth, I'll show you where, when I do a demo, they can see that you're physically present, they can see names, and they can click on your profile and see a bit about you, so they can kind of stalk you if they want. However, they won't start that conversation. It's really unlikely they're going to click on you and say, hi, what can we do for you? How can we help? So it's very much a proactive approach. So at the virtual fair itself, creating a positive image, and we do recognise it isn't exactly the same. You're not on campus in a big, busy space, but the virtual space is still a really useful one. So it is about creating a first impression, even though they can't physically see you, if that makes sense. So using clear professional business communication, in that when you're typing your chat question or message, that you just, quickly proofread it, check it. What is that going to say about you? Type it in Word if you need to, and then pop it in the chat. But, that's not absolutely necessary. Just be aware that whatever you say, if it's misspelt or it's got poor grammar, you haven't checked it, that will give an impression. And if you get the opportunity for a video chat, if an employer does invite you to that, appropriate body language, so making eye contact, nodding, smiling, that kind of, showing them that you're listening and that you're interested, and be mindful of employers' time. So if you are chatting in a text kind of courtesy type things that you would use in real life, you extend those to a virtual environment as well.
Thank you. And then the next thing is being curious, asking relevant questions, and just remembering that there is more to asking to a question than just asking a question. It shows that you've done your research, especially if you ask a question that employer, might be impressed with. Shows that you are interested in the company. You show initiative. And the thing is, you also show that you are curious, you're keen to learn, and you're keen to understand. So so asking questions is definitely something you need to keep in mind. And then also what's important is keeping notes of your conversations and the contacts that you have made, because if you clicked with a particular recruiter or alumni, you had a very good conversation. Perhaps they recommended that you definitely apply for one of the positions. You can always use that information to enhance your cover letter. So you can always mention a particular recruiter's name. You can say that, it inspired you to apply because you had a really good conversation at this particular event with this particular employer. So keeping notes of conversations, what has been said, it's would be very useful, and it might be something that you will really need for your applications at a later stage. So now we're going to, after the fair, reach out the next day with a thank you note. Don't leave it too late. It is, if you already made connection, you created impression, you really want to keep that relationship going. So just drop the note, especially if you've got an email or a LinkedIn, perhaps connection, just simple email saying thank you. Follow up any leads. It might well be that talking to recruiters or alumni, they gave you some tips or some ideas of who you might approach or where else you can possibly look for positions. So do follow them up. Don't leave it till later, and because you know how it is. We leave it one day, we leave it for a week, and then the memory is not the same. We might not get the facts right, etc. So just getting it out of the way and following it up straight away is a really way to go. Connect on LinkedIn. Again, it's really good to start building your network. And as you all know, LinkedIn is a really valuable tool for all of us to do that. One recommendation from me with regards to LinkedIn, you might be just tempted to click to find a person's name, click on connect button, and that's it. I really recommend that that you also add a note, okay, as a simple message as to where you talk to that person, perhaps something that they said, so again, keeping that connection going. So when you're sending connection request on LinkedIn, make sure you add a short note, because this is feedback we receive quite often, and especially from alumni saying, okay, we're receiving this LinkedIn request, but we don't know what they for. Yes, okay, we might just want to, students will assume everyone would want to connect with everyone, but it doesn't always work like that. Some people are quite selective as to how and who with they connect. And also you can revisit portal for further info, and it really depends on the portal. Some of them, like the ones the careers team uses at the moment, are very much accessible to yourself after, but some maybe general careers fair you attend in the future may not be.
My internet went down. Sorry about that.
Okay, are you back on line?
I'm back.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So
I just froze. Everybody froze, and then
yes,
I was
like, yes, I think we also you're freezing, and then
yeah.
yes,
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, so I just add one thing, really last thing to this slide is, of course, the main thing is to apply. If you found the right opportunity, a job that's right for you, you had a good conversation, don't leave it, apply, okay? And apply as soon as you can. One thing to keep in mind is very often jobs will have a deadline, but the employer can close the vacancy before that deadline if they reach the target of the application. So for example, if somebody is looking for, I don't know, having 500 applicants or 20 applicants or 1,000 applicants, whatever, and they reach that figure well before the closing day, it is likely that they will close the vacancy. So really do not delay, apply. However, one thing to remember is do not rush it. Make sure your application is up to the standard that you are happy with. So apply quickly, but at the same time, retain the high standard of your application and make sure it is relevant, well-structured, tailored, etc. And the next section for us is to give you some ideas about what questions to may ask, because this is the feedback we received in the past from both employers and students. It's what questions to ask. Employers will say, oh, the students are not really asking questions, or they don't know what to ask. And students weren't quite sure how they can approach asking questions and what is an appropriate question to ask. And one thing I would say you should remember as well is when asking questions and portraying yourself to employers, is that many of them approach the value-based approach when it comes to recruitment. So they're not only looking for technical skills, they're very much looking for soft skills as well in individuals. So, coming across in the right way, it's really important and can actually score you a few points when you talk with recruiters. So this is some examples of questions to ask, some general employer questions. Now, these are just examples. Keep in mind that when you do your research, when you learn about a company, you will find more company-specific questions, and that's very, very good. But this is some examples that might get your thinking started. Things like, how would you describe the culture of the organization? And they do vary from organization to organization. So it would be good to see what employer can tell you about theirs. What's the environment like? What's corporate social responsibility initiative company might engage with at this stage? And we all know right now CSR is a big thing, especially with global and big employers. They really want to create an image that they are very much aware about environment, social aspects, etc. So it's really good to show interest in that. And you might well look at the website and find that they have some initiatives in place already, and asking about them might be a good idea. And also asking about professional development opportunities. So these are just few examples of questions you could ask about employer in general. And of course, if there is...
interrupt you, sorry, we will share the slides as well. If you wanted to have the slides shared, we can share these afterwards via Victoria. So if you don't feel like you need to write these all down.
Okay.
Everyone's writing furiously and I'm thinking I'll save them some time.
Screenshots, how about that?
Yeah, screenshots.
Okay, so the previous questions that I have shown you, they all about employers in general. Now, you could also ask questions about specific team or perhaps specific job. If you've done your research and you found a particular graduate program or a position that you are interested in, do ask, of course, questions related to them. There's some examples here. And examples are what success would look like in this particular role. How would you describe the team that would work on this particular project? Are there any opportunities for growth in this role? Do managers encourage innovation and creativity? And also, you know, how managers measure success of employees in those particular roles. So this is just few ideas, few examples for you. But remember to tailor the questions to particular job, position, or organization. And the last question examples we would like to show you are questions you might ask alumni, because we have quite a few alumni joining recruiters this time, and very often when we have events on campus or virtual events that are Cranfield specific, we normally have alumni supporting those events. And you know, alumni have been in the same position that you are right now, so you know, exploring opportunities, thinking about career, thinking what's the next step for them. So they will be very happy to share their experience with you. So you know, the more questions you ask, more specific questions you put forward to them, the more you're likely to learn about how they develop their career, about the experience of recruitment process, etc. So there's few questions here for you. So, you know, general questions like, would you like most about working for the specific company? Are there any social groups that you could participate in? What teams they work with, how they find working with other teams? Was the best part of their job? Because this, you know, if you learn something that they absolutely love, again, you know, you can see whether this is something you would like as well, and this is something that you might want to mention in later stages of recruitment process. And of course, ask any tips if they have been through similar recruitment process that you are facing right now. Ask them about tips. Are there any areas that perhaps, you know, they haven't thought about, but would have found very useful if they did know about them? So, you know, just tapping into their knowledge and seeing how you can apply it to your own recruitment applications. Right, so we looked at questions we could ask. You might find it surprising, or you may not, but there are also questions you should not ask. Yes, yeah, I just put them up, Helen, and you can talk about them.
These are questions that you shouldn't really be asking as your openings in conversation. So whilst some of these questions, of course, will be important to you, they're not the kind of questions that you should start as your introduction to yourself. So for those of you that do need visa sponsorship, of course, that is an important question. But if you go into a virtual conversation and you open it with, do you sponsor visas? Their initial thought is going to be, does this person really want to work for us, or are they just looking for a company that's going to sponsor a visa? And they would want to learn more about you, because we've had many instances where students have gone up to employers and had a really, really, really good conversation. They've learned a bit more about your skills. They're interested in you. And then they're very willing, once they know, have that information, to potentially sponsor. But if you go in with that as an opening question, it can be a little bit off-putting. There is an awful lot of information out there on gov.uk and some information via our resources now, because obviously there have been changes since UK left the EU. For the graduate routes, there's all sorts of different things that employers can take advantage of. So perhaps it would be better if you had a little look at that and got some information and learned about it, rather than going in with a direct question.
Helen, can I just add something to that as well? And that touches onto something you have already said. It's just really the, as Helen said, it's not the right first question, but you can perhaps, you know, as conversation builds and you get to know employer better and you create a rapport. This is something you might ask at a later stage, and do not be discouraged if you don't find any information about employer sponsoring, because we had some examples of students and employers when they got into a conversation. Employer wasn't in a position to sponsor, but because they really got to like the student, they found that there is connection. They believe this person fits the cultural fit of the company. They have something they could really contribute, and the employer went out of their way to actually take on that overseas student on. So, you know, there is that aspect as well, and especially as Helen said, the point-based system has changed now. The immigration rules and options are different to what they've been before. So perhaps, you know, there will be more opportunities for overseas students as well. Great.
And then other things like how much do you pay? Do you pay sick pay? Those two are quite interesting ones. So they are questions that you shouldn't ask first, but of course throughout the recruitment process you actually would ask that. I mean, most of the recruiters that we have relationships with via Careers at Cranfield are reputable, quite large organisations that, you know what the market rate is for graduates, and it's something that you would ask throughout the course of the recruitment process, or potentially see on their job advert, of course. And if you're saying, do you have sick pay, perhaps gives the impression that you're going to need that sick pay, and are you the kind of person that might take a lot of time off? And then what does your company do? So please don't fall into that trap of what do you do, even if it's, you know, an obscure company. One thing I will say is there are a number of consulting firms that are taking part on Thursday that work with lots of different sections, and, you know, potentially aviation and your sectors will be part of that. So for example, there's one company called 4C. Now, you might not have heard of 4C. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of them till we'd had a relationship with them at Cranfield. Don't go up to 4C and say, what do you do? Spend some time looking at their website and looking at their information on the booth, if you leave it till the day, to learn a bit more about who the organisations are that they support. Because this is a great avenue for you guys. If you can't get into that aviation sort of airline role, there's going to be an awful lot of consulting firms that take graduates at entry level to work with their clients. So there's a number of them, and you can research them via Simplicity. You can already see the companies that are there, they're listed, so you can do your prep before the day. But yeah, please don't walk up to a company and say, what do you do? Because it doesn't reflect well on Cranfield, it doesn't reflect well on you, of course. And then also, you know, everyone's ambitious, or most of us are ambitious. You know, you want to get promoted, you want to do well in the organisation, but one of the first questions shouldn't be, how quickly will I get promoted? Ultimately, they want to take you on to develop into a role and to, you know, to undertake a particular role. Yes, potentially promotion will come later. You can ask about future prospects, but you need to be willing to sort of undertake the work and the role itself before you're in that position. So there's some just little questions not to ask. Hopefully that's helpful.
So next is
resources. These are, some of you will be already very familiar with these. These are screenshots of some of the learning packs, and we do urge you to look at those. They are Cranfield specific. We've created them ourselves and updated them over the years. These are all available in your FAQ section on Simplicity, and also in the document library. In the chat right at the top, I've put the link to the new virtual recruitment event learning pack, which we've put together for you. It does go into a little bit more detail than we've covered today, and it will really help you. It's easy to read, you know, a quick 30-minute read, and then pick up the points that are of particular interest. So do use the resources to help you prepare. That's what they're there for. And then what I'm going to do, I'll happily answer any questions in the chat. Perhaps Ursula will monitor while I just share my screen. But I'm just going to give you a quick demo of the portal itself. It's not quite complete, but we're getting there. We're still waiting for some employers to put some content in. And for those of you that are not familiar, if you didn't attend on the 5th of November, then this is a good chance for you to have a look. It's got different images on it now. So I'm just going to give you a quick 10-minute overview of what that looks like. I'm just going to lost my big screen again. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, can you, it says it's disabled, Ursula, the screen sharing.
Oh.
You You've unshared yourself, haven't you?
Yes, yes. Stop
Maybe I'm
sharing.
not a co-host anymore because I had to drop out and then come back.
Okay, okay, let me find you. Yes, you are co-host now, so you should be ready to go.
Yeah, I can do it now. Yeah, I think it's because my internet dropped out and I had to leave. So, so hopefully you can see my screen now. So for those of you that were there on the 5th, it's exactly the same portal. It's just got a different picture in the background. For those eagle-eyed ones of you, that is the Vincent building from a height. And what you're seeing here is the live event, but it isn't, I can see it all because I'm an admin person within that. But when you log in yourself, you won't be able to go into the employers hall yet or the auditorium. But what you will be able to do is update your profile. So please make sure you do that. So in settings, when you log in, I've shared the links. The registration link is available for you to register. And then this link, this email address, cranfield.online-event.co, that is where you'll be able to get in and just deal with your profile before the day. And in settings, you can see there's your profile. So this is what you can do before Thursday. So a little box will pop up and this will be your profile. You click edit. And this is where it's really important that you add some information about you. Don't leave it to the day. It'll take you probably 5 minutes or so to do it prior to the day. And then you're prepared. So you can put whatever photo you like. It gives you the chance to change your password. A little bit about you. Now, we mentioned elevator pitch earlier. And this is where potentially you can put a little summary of you and your experience. But as I mentioned, be aware, don't make it too tailored here, because any employer clicking on this will see you. So if you put, I am seeking a role in the airline industry, and you are visiting supply chain roles, and they look at that, they might think, oh, are they really committed to us? So I would perhaps use it as a summary. So this is me, I'm currently undertaking this MNC at Cranfield. This is my undergrad. Maybe detail a very short couple of sentences about what you've done before, be that work experience, internship, or even just about your personal achievements, anything like that, really. Quite short and to the point, but that's where you can add that. We only recommend you add social media URLs if you're prepared for an employer to see it. So if you are on Facebook and that Facebook is all about you and you having fun and, you know, doing your social thing, then I wouldn't add it. But you can add in your LinkedIn profile as a minimum. Be aware that this is public information within the portal. So if you put your telephone number there, the employer will see it, as will anybody else that clicks on your profile. So I would personally use your email. And that's all you need to do in there. Now, as you can see at the top here, it says we're due to start at 11:45 on the 4th of March. It's actually 12 o'clock. It's just set as 15 minutes early to allow everyone to get in. And then while I'm here, I'll just show you, this is your event bag. So what happens is when you go to an on-campus event, you often walk around, maybe picking up brochures, information, some free sweets, pens, all that kind of thing. Sadly, no free sweets or pens at this event. You can bring your own. What you can do in here is download information from employers' booths, which is really handy because you can log in after the event for 30 days to access your profile and retrieve information, which is quite unique to careers fairs. So for example, there's booth files, and I'll show you how you get them in a minute. Mine's quite full because I've been testing and this is previous fairs. But then it gives you a nice little list of all your booth files that you've gathered, things like graduate brochures and toolkits and benefits from particular companies and that kind of thing. And in sort of V cards, it's almost like a virtual business card. So it means that you get the information about a particular individual, and then you can download their contact details. So it's a good way of gathering your info virtually. Resource files, some booths have resources which you can download and you can look at them, or you can get rid of them if you've finished looking at those. So that's why your personal profile is a really useful place to start, and it's what employers will potentially click on and look at you when you're in the event, certainly if you're not engaging in any chat. So just make sure it's ready and up to date. Okay, so, and then from your profile, you can link back to the lobby. As I mentioned, if you try and get in today, it's not going to allow you in. I'm only being able to get you in because I'm demoing in from my site. You'll see various announcements running across the top. These will change throughout the afternoon. And by the way, you can dip in and out. If you've got other commitments, you can pop in at 12 for half an hour, come back later at 3 o'clock, you know, dip in and out as you wish. There is no limit to the amount of times you can hop in and out of here. So I just want to show you 3 key areas. So the resources, I'm not going to click on this now, but if you do when you're in the event, it just gives you lots of different Cranfield University as a whole type resources, library resources, alumni resources, etc. And then there's this networking area. And this is where you will find some FAQs where you can look at if you've got questions about the event. So can I come back? Will these employers sponsor internationals? What's the auditorium for? And when you click on it, the answer is there. So we've pre-populated that. And it mentions again here that you can access 30 days after the event. We'd be grateful if you fill in a mini poll when you're here. It gives us a real-time snapshot of how you're feeling about the event, how you're getting on with it, what's going on. It's very short. They're not quite up to date yet. My colleague's updating those. And then what's really good is the chat. Now, we've cleared the chat from the last event, ready for Thursday. What will happen in here is employers will probably pop in and introduce themselves. Somebody from the careers team will be floating around in here. You can see here on the right hand side, at the moment, there's only me in the virtual space because it's not live, but you will see a big list of fellow students and potentially some employers and careers team members in here. So you can have a good idea of who's around. Read the chat, it'll all be visible. You can be nosy and have a look at what conversations have already taken place. Always link back to the lobby there. Now for the auditorium, because it's an afternoon event, we have just 3 employers presenting. This isn't ready yet, by the way, so it's not the right times, it's not complete. But we have 3 employers at 12:30. We have Qatar Airways and Cargo. Represented with a presentation and a live Q&A. At 1:30 we have BAE Systems. Now I appreciate that's not entirely your industry, but you should have a look. They've got some amazing graduate schemes. And British Airways at 3:30 will be presenting and then answering Q&A. And how that works is when you see your live presentations area, you just come in here, the correct times will be here. And if you're available when they're doing that live, then of course just click on and view. I won't click it now, but it opens up a slightly separate screen with a presentation that will be running. And then there's an opportunity to ask question and answers in the chat that will be answered live by the client. So that's a really good opportunity. And it was very, very popular in the autumn event. If you miss it, don't worry. You can click into on demand because as soon as the live presentations happened, the recording of it, including the Q&A, will then appear here in a list. And what's also here is some pre-recorded presentations, which may well help you that you can look at. So how to be an effective networker, you're here at this presentation, so there probably won't be much that you haven't learned today in there. And a quick one about how to navigate a Cranfield Virtual Careers event. I think it's about 10 minutes long. Click on view and you can watch. But as I mentioned, they will be others on demand as the live presentations have already happened. So that's an interesting area for you to be aware of and take a look. And then you go back to the lobby, and then the place which is probably of most interest to everybody is the Employers Hall. So these are the employers here. As I mentioned, these, I mean, feel free to take a photo, screenshot or whatever now, but these are listed on Simplicity with links through to their site. So what happens is, I'm going to use this as an example. So in our careers area, when you hover over the tile, there'll be a snapshot of the booth. You click on it, it gives you a summary of what this organisation is about, and then you click visit the booth. And that's all you do. You look at the tiles here. One thing to mention is some of them will default straight into a video for you to learn more about the organisation. I'm just going to pause that. Others will go, others will go straight in to FAQs. So it might be that there's some FAQs there. please do check those out, because if you go into a chat and say a question to them, ask a question, but they've already taken the trouble to set it up as an FAQ on the front of their booth, they might think, okay, this person's keen, but they've jumped into the chat without even looking at the rest of our booth. So my advice to you would be, review the booth, spend 5 or 10 minutes navigating around, have a look at all of the resources. And if your question still hasn't been answered, or you just want to introduce yourself, which we want you to, then you can do that. Ours are very much related to how to navigate the event, of course. And they're all drop downs exactly the same. They are different to some of these that were in the networking area. You can connect. So things like if I was to click on the LinkedIn, it would take me straight to their LinkedIn page. If I'm going to click on documents, we've got quite a lot uploaded here. The employers probably won't have quite so many, but this is where I mentioned the event bag. So this little star here goes, add it to my event bag. I'm going to add this one to my event bag. And there's a little icon that you might see pop up on the right saying this selection has been added to your event bag. If you didn't want to add it to your event bag, but you just wanted to take a look, then you click on the I to view it. So just navigate around, have a look. Meetings. I don't think the employers will make use of this that much. They didn't at the last event. But if you want to see if they are sharing any meetings, you click on the meetings icon and it will tell you this was just a test. It will tell you what that meeting might be about. So it might be about a specific area of their business or to introduce you to somebody. And then you click, mine looks different because it says launch meeting because I'm the administrator, but it will say attend or join. And you click on it at the designated time, and then it will take you into a mini meeting separate from the regular chat. So do check that out. I will be honest though, I don't think many employers will be setting up meetings because it's a shorter event, but so you're aware. The video chat, you won't be able to instigate a video chat. This is where an employer potentially might contact you for a video chat. And how that is likely to happen is if you've been in the chat function, which I'm going to show you now. If you're in the chat and you add your question and you end up having a reasonable conversation. We were demoing this to clients this last couple of days, so that's why there's a bit of chat which will be deleted in there. So you might say, hello, have you got any information for me about this? This is me, this is the kind of thing I'm interested in. They're going to reply to you here. So they're going to write a reply. The only slight problem, if it is a problem with this system, is it doesn't necessarily alert you to all the responses that you get. So you need to keep popping back in to see if they've responded, although we would hope it would be fairly instant. But if they're busy, it might be that you might have to wait a little while for your question to be responded. So make a note of where you've been and ask questions and then pop back if there's a conversation going on. And as I said, you can see who's here. So there'll be representatives from that company listed here, other students floating around. But our booth, the Careers Development Service booth, is where you come if you've got a problem, any questions, any concerns, come and have a chat with us and we'll help you. So that's where we'll be sitting on the day. There'll be at least 1 or 2 team members available. But that's really all there is to it. You click in your question, you respond. It's very intuitive. Sometimes the question might be made public. So sometimes if you're asking something very personal to you, the employer will keep it private so nobody else can see that chat. But if it's a fairly generic question, they're going to click this thumb, which basically means that anyone can see it. So don't worry about going into a booth, into the chat and thinking there's not a lot going on in here. There's no conversations going on. I'm a bit nervous. I don't really want to do that myself. Chances are there's going to be a lot of private chats been going on that are between the employer and the potential employee. So be brave, jump in. This is what Ursula mentioned earlier. Don't just sit in this booth and hope that someone's going to start a chat, because that won't happen. You need to hop in here and ask a question or introduce yourself. Okay. Any questions on that? Pop them in the chat. Going back to the video chat. So if an employer has engaged in quite a good chat with you, and then they think, actually, I might see if I can chat to this person via video, they will click on this button here. I can't demo it properly because I'm already on my camera on my laptop and I can't add into the camera here. But what would happen is they would hop in, they'd have their camera on, or it could be a text chat. they'll click invite people. Now at the moment, there's nobody to invite because I'm demoing an empty platform. But on the day, there'll be lots of people floating around. So they can say, oh, right, okay, here's Jane. She's been chatting to me on text chat. I'm going to click her name and invite her to the video chat. And then you'll get a little alert saying, the person from British Airways has invited you for a chat on video. So this is where we mentioned being ready, being presented. So if you get that opportunity. Now, please make sure that you haven't got any pop-ups. You need to disable pop-up blockers, that kind of thing, because we did get a couple of reports from students last time saying, I was invited to a chat and it wouldn't let me in. And we've spoken with iVent, and apparently that's why if you've got blockers on your system, then the pop-up didn't happen, so you didn't get the chat. So we want to avoid that happening, so just be aware of that. And that really is all to it. So you go back to the hall if you want to go and visit another employer. You can click on here. Let's just see what's going on in BA. I think it's still a bit empty at the moment. Oh no, they've actually put some information in here now. So it all looks very similar. If they're not able to talk in the chat, it'll say we're offline, and then there'll be a box there for what you can contact them. So it just gives you a really quick, easy way of getting a communication to them via the event, and they'll know it's come from the event rather than just a random email. But chances are it's going to say we're online most of the time. And then you can click on different things here. They've got some useful links. And again, you just click the little cross and it takes you back to the main part. Okay, so I'm going to stop. I'm conscious it's 10:30 and I wanted to allow for some Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing.
We've got a couple of questions, Helen, in the chat. I think one of them you have already answered. One is to do with the new resource pack, and that's from Anthony. He says, I can't see the link to new resource pack.
Okay.
Am I the only one?
Okay. In the chat, it should be right at the very top, and it doesn't look like a PDF. It's a really long web link which links you to it. And I tried to detach it as a PDF, but it wouldn't let me. But you can download it as a PDF. Let me just, sorry, it's sharing again. Let me just check in the chat.
Yes, there is one. Okay.
You see it, Ursula?
Yes, yeah.
Because I dropped out of the call.
Oh,
got rid of the chat.
Mine doesn't open either.
Okay.
It just comes up with an error page. So there must be something not right.
I'm going to demo. I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, lost it now. I'm going to show you guys where to find it. So hang on a minute. I just need to open Simplicity up again. Bear with me. So I'm just going to open it up to me as if I was a student. So just give me a second. And I'll show you exactly where it is. Right. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see that now. So this is what your Simplicity page looks like when you log in. Ignore the extra bits on the side because they're the ones that we can see. So in resources, FAQs, how do I? Some of you may be familiar with this area already. Careers fairs and networking. This is also in the document library as well, by the way. Just going to move, all my video faces are in the wrong place. Okay. So how do I prepare? View our learning pack on virtual events. Click on the question mark. You click on it and it opens up. Hopefully it's sharing my screen still. And it opens up to PDF. It's taking its time to think about it. Okay, so there it is, the learning pack that you can just click download. That's that big link that I put in the chat, but obviously it's not working for whatever reason. And then you scroll down to the virtual learning pack. So hopefully that's answered your question. Yeah, so you're in Simplicity. You click on Careers Fair Networking Events and it's there. Okay, hopefully that's helped answer that question. I'm just going to stop sharing in a second.
Okay, if I can read out the questions, 'cause I'm conscious of time now. Is there a schedule available to know at which time companies we are interested in will be presented? That's from Benjamin. I know you have already covered some of that, Helen, in your demo, but will this information be available to students before the event?
Sorry, I'm frantically trying to stop sharing at the moment. Hang on a second. No, we have to. Right, I
can stop your sharing. It's okay.
I've done it. I found it now. I've got it all minimized down. Right. Okay. Right, I'm back. So the answer is no, unfortunately, because what we have to do is give the employers a chance to choose when they're available. Now, because it's a smaller event, most of them will have a number of different representatives. So I would assume that they're all going to be present between 12 and 5, but you'd have to look at each individual chat to see if they're available at that point. But from what I've seen, the employers are requesting additional colleagues to be added to the portal so that they can be available. And in some cases, some will have quite a lot. So whilst I've already shared the auditorium show, we haven't got a definitive list of when each employer is available at which time. But with 13 employers there, you can expect that most of them will be available between 12 and 5 to answer questions.
Another question, that's from Gaspar. Where will we be able to find the recording of the Zoom session?
Well, what I'll do is I will ask Liz, our colleague, to send it to Victoria, your SAS lead, and Victoria Jeffs. And because we're not going to share it widely anywhere, because as we've said, it's a sort of a private recording for you guys. So I will ask Liz to send it on to Victoria when it's available, and then you can look at it. And you, as I said, you can share it, but we'd ask you to share it internally only. The event isn't just open to logistics, supply chain, APM and ATM students. It is open to others as well, because they might have a background within it. So if you've got a friend, you know, that wanted to watch it and they're attending, but they're not on your course, that's okay, but please don't make it publicly shared. Any other questions?
No questions in chat. So if anyone would like to ask a question, please unmute yourself and ask.
And the main thing is to remember is to enjoy it, enjoy the event. We've put the event on for you. I know some of you might think, well, there's only 3 airlines coming, but you have to bear in mind, of course, the reality of our current situation. And given the fact that the airline industry will recover in a massive way very quickly, we believe, we are still in the pandemic. We are still in a situation where travel is banned for so many people. So we have to be realistic. But you know, we've got Wizz Air, we've got British Airways, we've got Qatar. And whilst, you know, you might have a wish list of organisations you want to work with, but keep that open mind. Go and speak to some of those consulting firms, research them by simplicity. You'd be surprised. There's some amazing salaries to be earned within consulting. And they need expertise from people like you that have got all the different elements to the course that you've done as part of your master's. They'll be very, very keen to chat, because the consulting firms represent lots of different sectors. And you might think, oh, a consulting firm is for finance people or business management students or whatever. But there's so many opportunities where they need people from specific sectors to help add value to their clients. So don't miss that as an opportunity, because they are very much excellent progressive employers.
Can I add one thing here, just right at the end? Keep in mind that this event is Cranfield specific. So all employers that are taking part, they're here specifically to meet Cranfield students and alumni. So when you think about it, you already have advantage. Those employers, those recruiters are here because they recognize the courses, the degree courses you are on. They are something they are interested in. They know Cranfield develops the skills that the organizations are looking for. So you already have advantage over other candidates from outside. So this is your opportunity to engage and use that that engagement and the knowledge and the networking that you build in future applications, should you decide to apply for any positions offered by the companies that will be present. So keep in mind, this is Cranfield specific. This is your really good opportunity.
Okay, thank you all so much for attending. Really pleased with the turnout. You know, a lot of you are here, so we really appreciate you taking an hour out to attend. As we mentioned on the day, any questions, anything you're not sure about, pop into the careers booth and ask. I'm just going to add into the chat our email address. So if you have any questions or concerns, or you can't get in, or your link isn't working, or anything like that, please don't wait till the day. You know, test out, see if you can use the links, get registered, and then drop us an email if you've got any problems. There will be somebody manning the inbox, the careers inbox, which is the email address I've just shared with you. They'll be manning that on the morning and throughout the session. So don't sort of think, oh, I can't get in and just give up. Drop us an email. We'll do everything we can to get you in. But if you use the link to register, as we said, and then use the other link, and you'll get reminders via email as well, then you'll be absolutely fine. Right, thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much for your time. You're free to leave. I need to go myself in a moment because I've got to go to another meeting. But,
Thank you very much, everyone. We hope you found it useful, and we shall see you on Thursday in a virtual form, that is.